Hello, welcome to Surrogate Church, episode 9, called Full Circle. So this week has been all about my youngest child's graduation and prom. And so I'm at a point where everyone has completed the cycle of childhood in my family, and they're all on their way, each on their own path. Our house is up for sale. Lee is getting ready to move to Vermont, and I find myself this week feeling a similar feeling to what I felt after Mary, my surrogate, was born, a feeling of being left behind and slightly out of balance. And so I'm choosing to read a piece that's reminiscent of how I felt then and how I feel today, called Full Circle. And part of what I'm really beginning to get to is that life is a series of circles. Beginnings, endings, and navigating that path is really filled with great moments of joy and excitement and fear and sadness and the whole range of everything else that goes with it, all the complicated feelings of being human. So I touch back, I go back to that moment in the past to understand my present moment, and hopefully there will be some insight gained that will propel me into my future rather than feeling like I am just lagging behind everybody else. Full circle. Montauk, the end of our island, way out east where the sand is rocky and the seals have returned, quietly basking on the ocean rocks. A family journey to bring me back to my circle of 6, my body recovering from birth, not quite sure what to do, ready to nurse a baby that isn't in my midst. There's confusion. The mind knows all is well, but the body needs to catch up. It is seeking a child. My hormones are screaming. My mind is whispering, all is well. Let the feelings pass. We walk the long walk down the rocky beach to get to the seals. It's a cool April day. The sun is bright. The wind is gentle. I walk slowly. The pack is way ahead. I feel left behind. I can't catch up. Why isn't anyone waiting for me? Why aren't they looking back to check on me? I feel alone, free-floating. I'm mad at Lee. Why does he walk so fast? I see the skeleton of a big fish. I see the shell of a giant dried up crab. I see mounds of tangled seaweed. I see drifts of dead, forgotten wood. Whose eyes are these? They don't feel like they belong to me. I try to blink away the ugly. I feel fat and slow, and the water is gray. Where is my blue? I walk on. I don't know why I bother. I want to go back to the car. My boobs hurt. I think this was a mistake. It is too soon to be this far out. I had a baby. 24 hours later, I checked myself out of the hospital so I could go see Emma's 6th grade concert. I sat on the wooden chairs of the 50-year-old auditorium. I watched her play her saxophone duet with Joe. Her long, dark hair, her golden horn, the beauty of her music. I was with her on Route 66, and I was happy. I try to hear the music now. There is nothing but crashing waves, loud and harsh. I want to go home. Route 27 West. Traffic is better than this feeling. I walk on and on and on until I finally reach them, sitting on the sand, looking out for seals. Where are they? No seals? What happened? Lee answers, the natural world isn't always predictable. How rude. We came all this way to see them and they're not home? Or maybe they are home and I'm somewhere else. I don't like this feeling. The beach is empty, just the 6 of us. I ask everyone to gather. I try to create a circle of unity. I want us all to pray together. Prayers of gratitude and love, even though I'm not feeling any love or gratitude at the moment, but I want to feel connected again. One by one, they comply. They sense how fragile I am. Lily refuses. I plead with her to join us. I need the power of the group to pull me back to the full circle. I'm drifting. I want to feel grounded again. She doesn't want to participate. She feels uncomfortable. I try to explain that I need her energy, her spiritual power. She says no. She says it doesn't feel right. I collapse into tears. Lee goes to her, reassures her that she did nothing wrong. I am annoyed at his choice. I'm annoyed at her choice. I feel dismissed. At the same time, I am grateful for his choice. I need him to take care of our girl because I can't. I don't want her to feel guilty for trusting her intuition. She's right. This part of the journey is mine to make alone. I know it is, as it should be, as I was told it would be. It is not as I imagined. It is surprisingly more painful. I tell them to start walking back. Lee leads the children onward. I weep. I feel forsaken. I hear the message from my grandmother, channeled through my mother, the gift of communication, the ability to connect with those who have passed. We sat together, my mother and I, the day the baby came home. My mother took my hand. She said, there is a message that needs to come through. I don't like when my mother channels. I feel like it drains her, but she was insistent. My grandmother came through. She placed rose petals at my feet. She said, go to the ocean, put your feet in the sand, let the water wash over them, for the journey is complete. You have followed the will of God. There will always be a place for you in the garden. But the time has come for you to return home. Your heart is in my hands. My hands are on your heart. The tears will be cleansing. The ocean within you, the ocean in front of you. You will become one with the goddess of the sea. You know her as Mary. She will be with you. Hold her sacred stones. It is her gift. It is your nature. Have no fear. For when your feet are clean, you will be ready to walk from darkness to your house of light. She also said, talk to the baby. Tell her that you will forever carry her in your heart. But her mother is the rose, and it is time to begin their life together. I spoke to the baby that night, the night she came home, the night my mother opened the gate and allowed the unending love of a grandmother to reach her grandchild. As I spoke, the baby looked at me with knowing eyes. I felt her shift. I felt the freedom to love her exactly as she is. No question, no worries, complete acceptance of her beauty and grace. I felt like a grandmother. I sit with my stones now. They help me remember. The tears stop. The walk back will be long. I stand. I'm ready. One breath, one step. I look up, and in the distance, tall and bold, solid and bright, stands the Montauk Lighthouse. With open arms, it calls me home. My pace quickens. I want to catch up. I want to find a piece of blue beach glass. There it is. I find my blue. I find a rock shaped like a heart. That's a good sign. I see a starfish on the sand. Maybe it's dead, maybe it's alive. I throw it back into the ocean. It needs to return home. I hear a splash. Look to the sea. It is a fat water creature. Maybe it's a seal, maybe it's a dolphin. I'm not good at knowing these things. It plops on a rock. It is a seal. Hello, you're home. I walk on. The wind at my back, it pushes me forward. I can't see the kids anywhere. They have gotten too far ahead. I walk and I walk and I look and I see until I get all the way back. Where is everybody? I see them sitting on a bench swing, all of them, waiting and swinging, looking at the lighthouse. They see me, they yell, "Mom, you're back!" They jump into my arms. Lily says, "I'm sorry I couldn't do what you needed me to do." I say, no apology. You did exactly what I needed you to do. Lee asks, "Are you feeling better?" I answer, "Yes, much better." He asks again, "What happened?" I answer, "I reached beyond my sadness and remembered my connection to source, to guidance, to family, to you, to our children, to light, to love." He laughs. "Wow, that's a lot of things you remembered." I say, "Well, there's more. I also remembered a message I was given before I was born." His eyes widen. "Really? What is it?" I smile, throw my arms in the air, releasing all the heaviness of taking myself so seriously, and say, "There is no end. That is my message." The kids ask in unison, "No end to what?" I answer, "To love. There is no end to love." They laugh. Somehow they all find my profound, be it cliche, message funny. Then Sage jumps up, says, "No, Mom, you're wrong," runs to the parking lot, wildly pointing, and shouts out in his wise guy voice, "Look at that." And there it is, the bumper sticker that brings me full circle. Montauk, the end. And so there we have it, full circle. I'm really beginning to realize that reading this text, being in this process at a point where my life is so in transition, is really about my process of grieving and understanding creation, and then letting your creation go and being in the sadness of that, and then the celebration of that, because it feels like it keeps coming back to this. Well, today I am so happy because my daughter Emma, who has moved to Portland, Oregon, is home. She was home for my Mary's graduation. So she gets to sit on the couch with me, and we get our last hour together before she's off to the airport. So, here's to some time with me and my Emma, that same girl who played Route 66 13 years ago on her golden saxophone, joins me on the couch. Here we are with my Emma.
Hi, Mom.
Get over here.
Goodness.
My girl. I am so happy you're here.
I'm so glad that I have
matching
the opportunity.
shoes.
You gave me these shoes. They were
I gave
yours.
them right off my feet
You
when I
did.
came to Portland.
You did.
Emma.
Anytime you come to visit, you just give me the clothes off your back, literally.
If you
It's amazing.
Don't compliment my clothes. If you're my child, I'll rip them off.
You'll undress
Give
immediately.
them right to me. Aw, kissing feet. Love your feet. Your feet have traveled so far from home.
They have.
Across the country. You are now in Portland for 2 years.
Coming up on it.
And tell us, what brought you to Portland?
It was a journey. So I graduated from Brown with a degree in medicinal plant research 2014, so 3 years ago. And then I went on to work for the Brown University Oncology Research Group, doing cancer research, coordinating national clinical trials for the cancer industry. And I really just became quickly disillusioned by how much that industry is targeted or used just for making money. And it really benefits off of keeping people sicker. So I couldn't, in good conscience, continue that work because I just didn't feel the mission or the passion that I need in my work. And so I convinced my best friend from college to move across the country with me now about 2 years ago, and we headed off in August, packed up the car. We'd never been there before, and just went on that kind of intuitive faith, and luckily it's really worked out.
And as your mother, like, you being called to that journey was so scary for me.
I'm sure. It was pretty terrifying for me, so I can only imagine for you.
Like the fact that you're driving across country through those scary dark roads. And this is like always in conflict for me because I feel like me and Dad raised you guys for like the hero's journey life.
Right.
Listen to your call of adventure, go to what your heart calls you to. And now, like, all of you do that, and I hate it. I hate that you follow your call, but then I would hate it more if you were stuck in a life that you weren't happy.
Right, because you would hate it that we were unhappy, but it's totally mother's maternal instinct that you want your children to be safe in your nest, right? It's a really hard feeling when they go, especially as far away as I did.
And talking about the circles, it's like breaking out of the circle and beginning to create your own circle, your own network, which in itself is just so brave. But you did go with Jake, who was amazing.
I did.
And
he was
we
my best friend
him.
From school, and so that helped. I mean, to have that little piece of like family, I cannot even imagine what it'd have been like to just go out there alone and to start from scratch and not knowing anybody, never having been there before. I hope I could have done it, but it would have been exponentially harder.
And it's interesting, too, because you've always been called to medicine. From the time you were little, you were going to be a doctor. You worked so hard to get to Ivy League. From West Babylon High School to Brown was like this great feat. But you sacrificed a lot to get there.
Oh, definitely. I really didn't have a life.
No, your life was academics. Every piece of academics just worked to the bone. And even in Brown, coming with a biology major with the intention to first go to Western medical school and that shifted for you. What shifted that to more naturopathic medicine?
Yeah, I mean, I really credit you with a lot of that because you did raise us on such kind of like alternative, holistic healing
Natural
modalities.
supplements.
Natural supplements. You made us swallow pills. Like, I learned to swallow pills since we were 2 years old.
I know.
We drank chlorophyll, which is amazing. I still take
because
chlorophyll
you're little plants.
to this
You're my
day.
little plants.
Our little plants. And just like bringing in different stuff like massage and energy work and going to see a homeopathic doctor and different things like that. So I definitely had it in me. And then I took a freshman seminar my freshman year at Brown called Botanical Roots of Modern Medicine and just fell in love with the study of ethnobotany, which is the study of the way in which indigenous peoples have used medicinal plants throughout history. And I became fascinated with that. And then I was with a partner at the time who she was going through her like medical school application because she was older than me. And it looked horrifying, absolutely horrifying. And the more that I learned about plant medicine and the more that I saw of what kind of the Western medicine was all about, became quickly disillusioned, like I did in my job at the cancer research, just how much it exists only if people are sick. And so if you have a healthcare system a capitalistic healthcare system that is relying on people to be sick to stay in business, but you're supposed to be in the business of healing, there's too many contradictions there.
It is absolutely a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Completely, because you want to keep making money.
Exactly.
So you want to keep people sick, and you just basically want to treat symptoms, keep them comfortable, comfortably numb, and not cure them.
Right.
And even in my field, the therapeutic field, the rise in the amount of people taking drugs, antidepressants, and anti-anxieties has skyrocketed. Because now it's even being prescribed by your general physician.
Right.
And once you're on them, you're pretty much stuck on them for life. It becomes very difficult to come off of them, but it keeps you comfortable.
And okay with everything, right? It keeps you very almost apathetic of like, this is the way that it is and I'm fine with that, which no, you shouldn't be fine with that if you're being mistreated, especially for women women are prescribed SSRIs or serotonin reuptake inhibitors, antidepressants, more than anybody else.
Women are?
Women, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And there is some case to be made that there is a certain stigma around men and mental illness and how it's kind of not masculine to seem hysterical, whereas women were always labeled as hysterical throughout history. And so there's a little bit of that there, but more often than not, it's just women who think that they're crazy or who think that they're depressed, who think that they're anxious, too emotional, exactly. Where really most times they don't have a chemical imbalance and it's just their own hormones that are being regulated. My partner now, she was feeling like she didn't have enough concentration and she's studying for the bar to become a lawyer, and so she went to see a psychiatrist because she wanted to talk to them about adult onset ADD because she really thought that she had ADD.
I have it too, I think.
And they dismissed that idea immediately and within minutes prescribed her an SSRI. Whereas this girl has never had any issues with depression in her life. Maybe some anxiety, sure, because
who doesn't?
Exactly. We're in an anxious state in the world. But it's just that easy to get a prescription for an SSRI these days. And so we have a population that is heavily medicated. And that's really causing this complacency.
Well, and even what I wrote about in Full Circle, after I gave birth to Mary, it was one of those strange periods where hormonally, physically, my body was saying, where is the baby that you're supposed to take care of? My milk is coming in and there's no baby. Mentally, cognitively, I know everything's okay, there isn't a baby, and yet my heart is grieving based on the hormonal imbalance. Like there was a moment where it was mind, body, and soul that needed to be treated.
Right.
And I could have very easily been put on a medication
Yeah.
after birth. Many women are, but many women seriously suffer with postpartum. But for me, the healing really came in a more spiritual way. So for me to have access to the spiritual realm with grandma doing her readings, going to the ocean, being prayerful throughout, writing throughout the process, set me up to understand this process of recovery and tolerate it.
Right.
Tolerate it because it feels intolerable.
Right.
That level of imbalance.
Because there is a serious hormone imbalance. I mean, in your case, your hormones were screaming, like, where is the baby? And our brains are actually pretty primitive. They haven't really evolved since they evolved from Neanderthal to Homo sapien. And so it still responds to those high stress situations with a very primitive response, whereas your hormones are raging. They're telling you, where's my baby? What am I supposed to do? It creates that kind of like, feeling, whereas even though rationally you know that, of course, the baby was not yours to ever have, and you don't want it even, but it's still the physical response that you're trying to kind of modulate and feel okay with. And just because you are a more holistically minded person, you can to look to different healing modalities. Because writing, any creative arts therapist, I mean, you know, you are a creative arts therapist, that is such a healing modality. Using supplements and plant medicine is another one. Meditating, connecting to whatever kind of spiritual paradigm that you want to connect with, that's another way to do it. And really, all of them should be used in combination with each other. And then if this feeling of depression persists, then of course you may have a chemical imbalance. Go talk to your doctor, because there are things that can help you there. But more often than not, the general majority of people are over-medicated, for sure.
And, you know, when we were going through this breakup of our family, there was a period where it was so difficult for me to tolerate that I went on an antidepressant for a short period of time. And what I realized during that period was that it basically quieted me. It made me sort of accept and tolerate somewhat of the unacceptable. So when you say people need to have their voice,
absolutely,
that's the kind of control it had. And I remember I was in a situation where processing it was very difficult because we're therapists, and I just did not feel safe in the community of therapists for me to go to a therapist and talk about it, because we're in the community. And I finally went to Celeste, you know, Celeste, who is a therapist but really is an artist. And I told her our story, and she worked with me for 3 sessions, really doing expression through prayer, through art, and through talk. And it got me to the place where she said to me, "You are his wife.
Right.
You have a right to speak out and speak loud. Your kids are big. They can tolerate this." Like, it always came back to me to want to keep things peaceful for the kids. And then that was the point where I said, nope, I am not medicating anymore. Came off of it. And that's when I got my fire.
Yeah.
That is when my fire returned.
Yeah.
The fire, though, that I have been so afraid of my whole life, to basically say, get the fuck out. Like, no, if you cannot act this way.
Right, this is not
and be
okay.
called my husband. It's not okay. And that, that has set off a process of tolerance that's different. Like, I can tolerate the pain because I'm allowed to express this idea of expression. And expression that, yeah, maybe it's going to come out a little crass and not be perfect, but it is expression without the intent to do harm, but really the intent. And that becomes this process of good medicine. So your good medicine, where have you come to? You just got this gorgeous tattoo by a famous tattoo artist in Portland.
Everybody
Who is it?
look up Free Orgy on Instagram if you have it. Her name's Pony Reinhardt. She's awesome. I'm obsessed with my tattoo. It's not yet finished, but it's going to be a
beautiful.
But
I feel like it is really a honoring of your plants and your plant medicine. And this, I remember when you were at Brown and you started working at the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And we would talk on the phone, and you'd say, "Oh, I'm here with my babies," like the way that you mothered those baby plants.
They're so cute. They're little tiny.
And of course, your first love, your first baby, like you're my first love, was oregano.
Yes.
And I was so thrilled because of Italian oregano.
But it was Mexican oregano.
Oh, but then we went to Mexico, so yay, Mexico oregano. But the Mexican oregano and its power for antibacterial and viral. Antiviral.
Yeah.
I just love it. So I, of course, then start getting oregano oil for everybody and putting it in their water.
Which is great. It's awesome.
It's a great thing.
I mean, you were using oregano oil before I was studying oregano. That's where I got the inspiration.
Really? I don't even remember that.
You're so strange. Yes, you were using oregano oil before I studied it. That's where my inspiration came.
History?
The circle.
The circle.
There's no ending, no beginning.
Where the hell are we? So, and then after that, you went on to my little bone of contention at first, cannabis, right?
Yes, which is a joke within the industry. I actually was giving a talk at an industry event in Oregon, and I was talking about kind of my journey of how I got to cannabis, and I said for my thesis I couldn't study cannabis because it was in Brown, and of course it's still illegal federally, and so I studied oregano, and everybody hysterically laughed because the joke among like the black market is that like, oh, if you get like bad weed, your dealer's giving you oregano in a bag.
Meanwhile, oregano is so healing. Let's not diminish oregano. That's my plant of choice.
Yeah, would you smoke it though?
Why not?
Okay.
Would it do anything bad if I smoked it?
I mean, no, it wouldn't. It's just like anytime
pure
you combust
tobacco
anything,
is
it's
good.
carcinogenic.
That's true. So
never really
Light
heard
it
of
on
anybody
fire.
smoking oregano though before on purpose. That would be a new one.
Oregano cigarette.
That would be a new one. But yes, so I went to Portland and I got into the cannabis industry.
Where it's legal, both recreationally and medicinally. Medically.
Yes. So anybody 21 plus with a government issued photo ID can come in and buy flower, edibles, concentrates, topicals, the whole deal. Yeah.
Now, how do you find that different? That type of medicine, the cannabis. Why do you stand behind that as medicine?
Because really the whole point, at least for me and really much of the industry in Oregon, is to really help people reframe their own relationship with not only cannabis, but also healing in general. So we talk about, we've just been so reliant on our Western medicine and that whole medical system of just like you go, you see a doctor, it's quick, they don't have time, they write you a prescription, you go, you fill your prescription, whatever, that takes care of the symptom until you find yourself 2 months, a year, 2 years later having the same recurring problem again, or maybe it's manifesting something somewhere different because it didn't actually act as a curative, so it didn't target the problem. Whereas plant medicine, and specifically cannabis, I kind of see cannabis as the all-star plant medicine that will kind of lead the botanical revolution so that people become more accustomed into integrating other plant medicines into their regimen. But it's all about reframing your own relationship with your own healing. It's all about taking charge of your own healing, feeling okay to experiment with these plants that do actually attack the issue. So we're not talking about covering up symptoms here, which is what almost every pharmaceutical will do, because if they actually cured you, then they would go out of business, right? Whereas plant medicine, it attacks the actual problem. And that's not to say that it's a cure-all. That's not to say that it's a quick fix. You may need to take it for the rest of your life, but it's not going to give you any harmful side effects. And it actually will drastically increase your quality of life without any side effects, whereas the pharmaceuticals that you're taking have a barrage of side effects that people then struggle with on top of the issue that they're trying to treat. And so for me, it's very empowering, plant medicine, much more empowering than here you're at the mercy of a doctor who's going to write you a prescription where you have to go take 1 million pills a day, and then you have all these side effects that you need to take more pills. Plant medicine, you can go, you can have a discussion with a person who is knowledgeable and who understands the plant and the products, and then helps to put it in your own hands.
Well, and that really does go back to the indigenous roots, because you know, I've been studying with Native Americans, with the curanderos of Mexico, and plant medicine is such a big part of healing. But what they tell you to do, talk about individual relationship, is that when you get your medicine, you have a conversation with that medicine.
Right.
Before you ingest it, there is gratitude that it's actually serving this purpose of healing. You express gratitude. And then you ask for the help that you're going to need.
Right.
You infuse it with this energy. And so, again, I guess the circle, right, of life, where it is giving up its life for you, but it's also fulfilling its purpose to heal.
Right.
And you're recognizing that, wow, cannabis, weed, marijuana, like part of its purpose is to heal. Like Mother Earth has created it to provide something to the people.
And the planet.
And the planet.
It's a bioaccumulator, so it will literally pull heavy metal toxins from the earth. So they plant cannabis plants at sites of radiation, so like Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Tons of cannabis plants because it's pulling the toxins from the earth.
Now, what would happen if people smoked
No,
that?
people cannot smoke that.
But
the plant.
doesn't that make it same? Then any cannabis needs to be grown organically.
Absolutely.
So you're
Absolutely.
like the street weed that people is getting is basically can be toxic then.
Yeah, and even the legal weed, they did an experiment where they tested California cannabis by the standards of Oregon testing rules, because we have pretty strict standards for pesticides, and 87% of California's cannabis failed in Oregon, our pesticide testing. And so we're in an interesting position where the country and the states who are legalizing cannabis are looking to Oregon to really like set the standard, and that's what Oregon wants to be, because we push the craft industry for everything that we do. So weed, wine, beer, and now cannabis. So that means ethical practices across the board. So paying your employees enough money, growing it organically, better than organic, using organic living soil. I also have my own personal theory that cannabis is not only a bioaccumulator, so it'll pull toxins from the earth, right, and clean the earth, but I think it's also an energy accumulator. So anybody who's interacting with it, anybody who is interfacing with the plant is like actually pulling in that energy.
And back to the native ways.
Yep.
That if you are going to grow something that is healing, it needs to be grown with love.
Absolutely.
And this whole idea that you need to start to be discerning about the quality of the substance you put in your body, including food,
right?
Because it does collect that way.
Absolutely. And I mean, you look at food, they're grown with a ton of pesticides. The different thing about cannabis, and this is not to say that food shouldn't be grown with pesticides, it should not, and that's hopefully what cannabis will kind of help spark the agricultural revolution as well. But when you're combusting something, you combust a pesticide, it becomes like 10,000 times more toxic than if you were to ingest it. So that's why legalizing cannabis is actually so important. It's really a civil rights issue of people are not getting access to the medicine they deserve, and parents with really sick kids are forcing
especially seizures.
Yep, with kids with seizures in illegal states are forcing to buy large amounts of weed on the black market, doing their own extractions to make these oils, which is oftentimes dangerous. Oftentimes, the weed is grown with pesticides, and so then you're concentrating down high levels of pesticides. You're already putting it into a child within a compromised immune system. Then you're doing more harm than good, but still it helps their kids, so they feel like they have to. So really, the legalization is the way to go. Of course, it threatens the pharmaceutical industry.
Do you think they'll get their hands on it?
Oh, I think they already have. I think they already
That
have.
scares me.
But you know what? It's like anything else. It's like anything else. You need the kind of dichotomy.
Yes, Trump.
Right.
Right? He's really our contrast.
You need the dark
to fight against.
to have the light.
Yes.
To have the light. And
to know where you stand. What is your position in
Definitely.
this?
Definitely. And I think that cannabis is also so important because it is a psychotropic. So it does give a certain change depending on what type you have. It gives a certain change in your psyche, and it really lights the fire more than anything else. So you talk about pharmaceuticals, and like you said, they're just medicating.
They dim.
Exactly. They're medicating our population into complacency, mostly our women into complacency, right? Because statistically, so many more women are on SSRIs. And so if you look at that through kind of a socio-political feminist lens, then it's basically your way to keep women oppressed in this patriarchal society and make them feel okay. Yeah, Trump and his band of idiots are making a healthcare bill where we will no longer have any rights. That's fine, whatever, it's okay. It's the way that the world works. But when you begin to release yourself from the pharmaceuticals and begin to use psychedelic plants such as cannabis, it starts to make you question a lot. It brings to light a lot of your own personal patterns. It brings to light a lot of sociological patterns that you begin to see, and it makes you say, no, I'm not okay with this. It makes you draw a line.
Well, and it is actually, there is such an emergence in the field of therapeutic healing. The psychedelics now in microdoses are coming into play. And part of what they do, part of what I'm beginning to understand about it, is this idea of expansive perspective. So it really is helping you to see an arc that is past, present, future, and it heightens and amplifies what in fact needs to be expressed out, cleared, changed, and that is a little dangerous.
It's very dangerous. It threatens
when you try to
our government. It threatens our society. I mean, let's look at what drugs are celebrated: sugar, caffeine, even cocaine.
Yes.
In kind of the white male finance world, that's completely okay, because what do? They're uppers. They make you speed, climb the corporate ladder.
Not stop and notice.
Exactly. And that's cannabis, that's MDMA, that's acid, that's psilocybin, whatever psychedelic. Entheogen, really, is the term for it, which increases empathy in you. So a substance that will heighten your empathy to a point where you slow down, you remove yourself from that kind of like climb, go, and you say, wait, is that what life is really about? Is that what's going to make me happy? And 100% of the time, people who experience those kind of psychedelic trips or experiences will say, no, that's not.
Do you think that's part of the change in your generation? Because I see it in your friends, I see it in Lily's friends, where my generation was much more about find a career that's going to make you money, that's going to give you a pension, where you can move to suburbia, you can keep up with the Joneses, where your generation feels much more about, nope, I want to create a lifestyle that is fulfilling, where there's time for celebration and joy, but also time for good hard work, honest work, and if it's not working, I can change it.
Right.
You think that is?
I mean, yes. I also think that there are other things that kind of aid to that, such as we've seen the government fail us time and time again. We've watched the pendulum swing from light to dark, and really from dark to darker. I mean, we're very disillusioned with the idea that the government is going to be there for us because of just how dirty politics has become. Plus, I mean, by the time we're old, there's going to be no Social Security left.
No.
None of us have 401ks. We're coming out of college with more student loan debt than ever and hardly any job opportunities.
True.
And so we're kind of saying, you know what? Fuck it. This didn't work for them. And also, we see all of our parents going through divorces, severely unhappy, feeling stifled in their lives, feeling like they haven't done enough. And just like, we don't want this life for ourselves. And whether that's due to, or I think that's enhanced by kind of our or rather I should say that we're no longer buying the government propaganda that drugs are bad for you. That's it. We're not buying the campaigns of just say no to drugs. We're looking at it in the whole context and saying, it makes total sense for the government to tell us not to use these drugs because of the way that it takes us out of their system.
And listen, and I say it, I am still completely brainwashed. I say no to drugs.
You came a long way. But you should give yourself some credit.
You teach me, and what you just said actually helped me to understand a little bit more of my rejection, that if in fact those drugs, the drugs you were talking about, like weed and whatever else, heighten empathy, I think I actually come in with a very high level of empathy. And I think to heighten it anymore would make me radically uncomfortable and in pain. So that just made sense.
Right.
Like,
I mean, also,
there's a natural rejection for me because I don't want to get any more empathetic.
Well,
I need to get a little less empathetic.
I wouldn't say that, but you love ritual. You love ceremony.
Yes,
you reject the idea of it being used in a recreational party sense.
Totally.
I think that you are pretty okay about it being used medicinally, ritualistically, ceremonially.
Yes, because it combines mind, body, spirit in a way that takes the best of everybody into account. And when I did the training with Oscar, who is a Peruvian shaman, he had this big feather and he pointed at me and was like, "What is your medicine? What is your medicine?" I'm like, I don't know what my medicine is. What is my medicine? He'd point to people and they'd say, you know, I'm a yoga person or I'm a shaman. Like, I don't know. So I was talking to him about it afterwards because ritual is so performance-based. I was like, Oscar, what is my medicine? Yeah. He said, it is what comes easiest to you and what you do with great love. So I said, well, mothering, because that's the thing that seems to have come easy. He's like, mother medicine is a very powerful medicine.
It is.
So even thinking of medicine that way, like, what is your medicine? What is good medicine? And when does the good medicine turn bad?
Right.
So what would you say is your medicine?
I really love, well, before we started this show, I told you that I love press, right? I love speaking. I love advocating.
You do it so well.
Thank you. But I really do love standing up and advocating for the cause, advocating, educating, really making people aware. Shed any of the ideas that they've just taken on or consumed because they've been fed that, and make them question. Question your ideas, question your patterns, question what you think to know as true, question those judgments. And release them. Because again, it doesn't serve you. It only serves the system that is trying to entrap you.
And I've really come to see your growth in that you can have a very clear cut, nope, I'm not buying that, hell no, right? That's Emma. But at the same time, I also have seen how you are very open to listening to people and be in the process that in order for people to change, they first really need, I love this word, shed their old beliefs by expressing them.
Releasing.
Right? Even releasing them righteously at first. And then coming to, oh, maybe I can see this another way because I've been heard in the way that I've always held this belief. And that is phenomenal medicine, to hold that kind of space.
Yeah.
This I was involved in, and it was so moving to me, a Native American healing circle. And as part of the ritual of the circle, you sit up all night. and the women just sit, and the men really take on the roles of keeping the fire, of running the ceremony, of doing the drumming, singing the songs, and the women's job is purely to sit up.
Yeah.
And that kind of space, to be able to hold that space, and I feel like you're not just sitting up, you're standing up.
Right.
Because you're on the verge of having a say in how this industry will evolve and develop, like your little plants, and rooted in your love for the plant, back to your tattoo there on your arm. So again, watching your circle of life, seeing you come from that like little girl who wore all black and was always had a rebel spirit, but then just went strictly into your academics.
And I was totally substance free. Let's just mention that, right?
Yeah, never.
And I was actively, I actively spoke out against the use of cannabis or alcohol. I mean, I didn't even know about other drugs then when I was in high school.
That was my goal, to get all my children to like 21 without having any
22
substance.
was
22
yours.
to affect their brain growth. I got pretty close.
Did you? I don't know about that.
Come on, I held it down for a long time.
You did. I mean,
my
the
brain
age got lower as your children went down the line.
You lose more and more control. That gate, that little space in the opening of the circle, because one of you escapes out of the circle,
right?
Suddenly,
it expands.
It expands
to different orbits. But yeah, I mean, that was my own journey of having to. I was so strictly against it and so into like no. I always said, which now I'm like, this is so disturbed. It's like, I'd rather eat a piece of cake than like get high or drunk, which is like, sugar is the most damaging substance that exists on the planet.
I think I'm still there.
But
I'm trying to understand this concept of using medicine for celebration, but I'm not there yet. I'm still much happier just to see you. Celebration. What am I going to do when you go home? Do you remember playing your saxophone?
Yes, I remember coming into the hospital and forcing you to check out.
You were so feisty.
I know.
That was our agreement, because she was due actually the beginning of April, and your concert was April 1st. She was born March 31st. You were like, I don't care. You have to come to my concert.
Yeah, talk about like a line that I stood up for. I mean, that whole pregnancy, I was really, really upset.
So upset, so mad about it. I've talked about it in other pieces where you just were like, nope.
Right.
And the only thing you could bring it to was there is something in this bloodline connection that you didn't like.
Well, it's because
blood medicine.
I know.
Blood magic.
People were like, oh, do you think that your mom... My sixth grade teacher said, oh, do you think that like people are going to think that your mom and your aunt are gay? And I was like, no, what the hell? I don't care about that. Oh, do you feel like your mom's like not going to like be there for you? No. Do you feel like Roro, your aunt's not going to be there for you? No. No, I don't. I just hate it. I just know that I hate it. And I know that it's the same feeling that I felt when I watched you get your blood taken, when you donated blood. Same feeling of just that no, and then hysterically cry.
Right. No,
so, yeah.
And there is a whole thing about blood magic, and it had to be tapping into something ancient in you.
I think so, because there's really no rational response. And then once she was born, I loved her. I mean, then I had a fit because you wouldn't let me hold her when she was 3 months old.
Right.
It's like, I'm holding her. You just grabbed the baby out of your arms. So it had to be some kind of, in more of like magical, mystical realm, I think, because there really was no logical answer.
So do you feel, now that you're living across the country, like, is there anything here? I'm sure there's a lot of things here that you leave behind happily, but anything you leave behind, I know you miss Chinese food. You leave, they don't have good Chinese takeout.
They do not have good Chinese
but
takeout.
Anything else that you feel a sense of leaving behind?
Of course. I mean, I leave the place behind happily. I admittedly hate Long Island. Sorry, Strong Island. I hate Long Island.
We're going to be canceled.
But my family, that's what I always say. I mean, if I had my family out on the West Coast, then I would have everything. If I had you and sisters and brother, then that's it. That's all I need.
Right. That.
It's like I don't
proximity.
like the place, but yeah, the closeness. I mean, even if it was like 3 hours by car or something, but being that geographically far away from
it's hard
from you and the Sibs, it's hard.
It is.
Yeah. Of course I leave behind the sense of sadness.
And me being like that Indian woman, I feel like right now just sitting, holding ground. Everybody's going. But I don't know. I'm feeling better. Maybe it's just expressing.
Releasing.
Maybe releasing. And I'm telling you, I think, Surrogate Church and my viewers, I really think that this has become a platform for me to process and express with people that I love.
Hell yeah, it's a form of release. It's a big form of release, a pretty public form of release,
too,
which is brave and amazing, and also putting your art out there. And I mean, you are entering into what you always told us, the fertile void. Like when we would, when I graduated from college, and it was like the fertile void of like, oh, there's so much that I could do, but I feel like I can't do anything. It's that place that I feel like everybody kind of goes through when they graduate, when there's kind of that like transition ending. And so you were entering into that, but it's a powerful place where you could do some like really powerful magic and transmutations for yourself. Because for the first time, you're not going to have any kids. You're not going to have a husband. It's going to be you, but that means that
my dog,
you and Pi,
me and Pi,
you and Pi could
Pi
go
will be my next
anywhere. I mean, seriously, you could move wherever you want. You could do whatever you want. Like that there's never been a time in your life where that
is
has
so
happened.
true. That's true.
Huge.
Like take life and just say, what are we going to make of
And it's terrifying, of course, but on the other side of that fear, there's great, great happiness.
I can't say how much as a mother, like to feel like your medicine, what you connect to as your medicine is your voice, your ability, oh my God, it could make me cry, to speak for good in the world, to speak for justice, to help other people find their voice, that you have that, like that to me is such a mark of success.
Thanks, Mom.
Such a mark of success, because I feel like that even the show, it's my whole life has been about trying to bring forth a voice, and where you're, really risky is you're not afraid to say it as you see it.
Nope.
You'll
and
say
I'm not
it
afraid
as you
to
see
live it either.
And to let that change. Look how radical you were with absolutely not to, oh, well, maybe.
Right. And really not letting anybody's opinions get in my way. I mean, like, the entire family hated what I was doing.
Yeah, this is like, wait.
I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. I need to follow my happiness. My, of course, immediate family was very supportive, but I'm talking like extended family, even some friends of just like, what? Why would you move across the country where you don't know anybody? You want to get into this industry. It's unsafe. It's scary. Fuck the fear, man. You got to go live.
You've got to follow the call.
You need to go to an experience.
But I think part of it is being clear enough to hear the call and to know that it's an evolving process.
Right.
All that you knew was that you had to be in a space that allowed you a little more freedom to go into the kind of work that you wanted to go.
Right.
And the rest is the unknown.
Right.
And it's that kind of navigating it to where you need to keep it going.
Absolutely, but everything is unknown.
Everything.
Right? I mean, if you are still in your hometown, which may totally work for you, and that's awesome, after all these years, you're still navigating the unknown. Any sense of comfort is a false sense of comfort to me in terms of what you want to do or where you want to go.
No, and that is exactly the universal message I feel like I keep coming back to in reading this out loud.
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow, this is always happening. Life is constantly this process of creation, death, rebirth, build again. Like it is a process, an ongoing process of recreating.
Exactly.
Because it's always in flux, and like you said, there's always unknown.
Right. And you begin to find things, you know? Once you set an expectation, the universe will inevitably destroy it. Truly. So
no
just about following the winding road.
No expectation.
Yeah.
How great is it to, if that's the metaphor, like to travel and have you with me in this moment, like Mary said in her graduation speech, right? Like being in the parentheses.
Yeah.
Mom and Emma. Me and you.
My
Emma
sweetie
and me.
pie.
Love you so much.
I love you so much. My cutie angel.
Green girl. Okay, so we're out. Emma, the next time you're back on the couch.
Invite me back, baby. I'll be
Invite
here.
you back. Maybe I'll be able to pay for your trip back. Even better. Awesome. We end today with a small piece that I wrote after Mary's birth. It's called Afterbirth of a New Life. It is hard to come back to ordinary living after participating in the glorious process of creation. Thank God for our new baby. Her essence is a delight, still so fragile. Please, God, keep her safe. So, with all the glorious creations we get to be part of on a daily basis, there is also that moment temporarily closes. But what I've learned is there's this professor that was a great mentor to me at NYU, Robert Landy. He's recently retired. And one of the things he started doing in retirement is making art with circles. So he was telling me a story how he was speaking to a Sufi master about what he does. The Sufi master asked him, "What do you do?" Now, this is a man who has done tons of things, but he answered in the moment, "I make circles." And the Sufi master said to him, "Well, when we make a circle, we leave a point that is open. The circle never completely closes." And I'm starting to finally get that we may think there are endings, there are beginnings, but it is just this path where there comes these little gateways where we get to every once in a while step out of the circles that we somehow or create for ourselves. Even the circles of our beliefs, there is always a little gateway. So if you are feeling stuck, if you are at that point of beginning or end or anywhere in the process, remember, there is always an opening point where something new can come in or where you can get out and then return back. And that gives me hope, and I hope it brings the same for you. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me.